So welcome everyone. I'm going to get started. Thank you for tuning in to today's webinar, where we'll be discussing the 2024 NeoEd hiring report and talking about the ongoing hiring crisis in education, as well as, of course, what you can do to actually secure a stable workforce. My name is Stephanie Tracy Kalash. I'm the Director of Corporate Marketing for NeoEd, and I'm joined by Amanda and Makeda, some of our amazing staff members here. They are just the experts beyond experts. So I'm excited to hear what they have to share with you all, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So Makeda, go ahead, take it away.
Hi, I'm Makeda. I'm the account executive here at NeoEd. I've been with the company now a little over 2 years. I'm currently based in Tennessee, but I'm a Philly girl through and through. Formerly, I'm a special education teacher and have been in education for over 14 years. Super excited to be with you all today and share some of the amazing insights that we've gained from these reports. And I'll pass it on over to Amanda.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Hello, all. Nice to meet you all. My name's Amanda. I'm a solutions engineer here at NeoEd. I've also been with the company for just over 2 years, but I've been in the NeoEd family longer. I myself was a customer, have worked in HR for over 10 years. We used Insight, which is our applicant tracking system, as well as implemented Onboard during the pandemic. So super excited to be here and share some insight into what hiring looks like right now.
Awesome, thank you both. And I just realized I went out of order. So obviously we're gonna be great on the fly here today. It's gonna be a fun afternoon. I'm gonna take it back from Amanda and Makeda for a minute. And just before we start digging into the data, I wanna set the stage for everyone a little bit. So as I mentioned earlier, today we're gonna discuss data and insights from our annual hiring report. This year, we've aptly named the report the Education Hiring Crisis, because while there are some positive trends in the data, education HR professionals are still collectively struggling to fill a number of positions, which is making, of course, hiring, but also retaining staff that much more difficult. So interested to share our findings and hear from you all as well today. And of course, where did the data come from, right? So this year's report references data from over 1.3 million education-specific job applications from within our NeoEd applicant tracking system, Insight. It also references data from a wider analysis of over 45 million public sector applications and survey responses of over 700 HR professionals and job seekers. So lots of different data sources. At NeoEd, we are uniquely positioned to gather all of this data from job seekers and HR professionals with our extensive customer base. And today we'll share that data and provide best practices on how you can improve your recruitment efforts to make your open roles more attractive to qualified candidates. I also want to note here that we will have time for questions at the end of the session, but if something comes to mind throughout the webinar, feel free to throw it in the chat and I'll have a look at it at the end. Awesome. So the hiring landscape. Again, we are definitely going to share some more specifics as well as the solutions to some of those challenges. But before we do that, I'm going to outline sort of the current state of the education job market for you all. Between 2019 and 2023, we saw increases in open jobs and decreases in applicants per job. Thankfully, that trend has started to reverse. So like I said earlier, there are some positive findings for sure in the data. This was the first year, or 2023 really was the first year since 2019 that job openings actually decreased by 4.2%, and the number of applicants per job increased by 17%. In contrast, or comparing that to the public sector saw a 20.5% increase in total jobs. And so it again identifies that education is trailing a little bit there. You're still struggling, and that's where we want to identify those areas and of course offer solutions for all of you. But overall, more jobs are being filled and more applicants are interested in roles in education this year than this time last year. The upward trend is certainly encouraging, but you're still struggling to fill those open positions, and I'm sure you're all feeling the same way. So this brings me to a fun little poll question. I'd love to know sort of where you've seen the most candidates come from. Have you seen them come from candidate relationship managers, virtual recruiters, job fairs, career pages or job boards, social media, or are none of those areas actually showing any signs of success for you and you're still really struggling to find qualified candidates? See if we can kick this poll off. Let's see. Oh, it's collecting responses. Wow. So I'm sure you all can see the little board in front of you. That's actually fascinating to see that career pages and job boards are the serious winner there amongst all of your peers. Clearly, those of you are still, or there's a number of you that are still struggling to find qualified candidates as well. And some of those other channels are helpful, but that the job boards have really been the winner. So thank you all for sharing. So going back into the data quickly, like I said earlier, the data shows that the jobs are being filled. The problem that we're now faced with is that they're not being filled fast enough, and especially not fast enough to combat sort of what the pandemic did to the education sector. Although average applicants per job increased, again, by 17% between 2022 and 2023, we're still about 10% below the number of applicants from pre-COVID. And all of the pandemic fueled issues still remain. We've got hard to fill jobs, burnt out teachers, faculty, staff, just employees overall, early retirements, and we're still, sort of plagued with that and are working towards the solutions, of course. In our most recent survey of HR professionals, more than half of them shared that, again, jobs are getting filled, but overall hiring has not gotten easier. And the fact remains that qualified applicants per job is still alarmingly low. Insights drawn from our data show that the average number of applicants per job in education is 22 today, but the bottom 25% or the bottom quartile of job postings average only 2 applicants per job. And when you adjust that for qualified candidates, especially with certain credentials or other requirements, it's basically an impossible task, right? Especially for those roles that only have 2 applicants per job on average. So still much work to be done. And like I said, some roles are harder to fill than others, especially those roles that require specializations or specific advanced degrees. And although institutions are predominantly struggling to fill teaching roles, there are non-teaching positions definitely throughout higher education that are difficult to fill as well. And so I'm going to hand it off to Amanda now. Hopefully that gave you a decent sort of overview of what we're seeing in the market right now. And Amanda's going to get into both the hardest to fill jobs that we identified through our data, as well as those that are most attractive to fill. And again, what we can all do about it. So go ahead, take it away, Amanda.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. So there are a number of factors that influence a candidate's decision to apply for a job, right? It's pay, benefits, experience, personal preference. That's why we consider the view to apply, that conversion rate, as a strong indicator of job appeal. So that conversion rate is the number of people who view a job posting and then apply for that job posting. Of course, the higher the conversion rate, right, the better. Despite a 28% increase in the number of application views, those view to apply conversion rates have actually decreased in 2023. So in other words, more people are viewing those education job postings, but they're not necessarily applying for those positions. How do we fix this, right? That's the goal here. So if your job posting is not getting views, you need to focus on better branding and advertising of those roles, right? Let's put them out there. Where can we share them so that more people are going to see these roles that we have open and available? If your job posting's not converting, you need to revisit the job itself and possibly take a look at making some changes or adjusting the minimum qualifications if possible. But that sometimes it's just a matter of sort of flowering up that job posting, right? Let's make it more interesting rather than just having that job description out there. If you don't have easy access to the application data, that might be a really good place to start, right? So the more data you have, the better and more strategic decisions you can make. Software solutions, of course, like NeoEd's Attract and Insight tools can provide the much needed recruitment data that we need. So let's take a look at what the data reveals about the hardest to fill roles in the education sector itself. All right, primary and secondary ed professionals. These view to apply rates are extremely low. People may be looking at these postings, but they're not applying at the rate that we need in order to fill the open positions. So how can we make them more attractive? One way, which we'll get into more specifics about later, is to focus on your job postings and what your ideal candidate cares about. Is it administrative support? Is it work culture, benefits? Is it those summers off so they can spend time with their kids? An opportunity to invest in the next generation, and so on and so forth. Despite these low conversion rates for K-12 education, we identified another role that's even harder to fill. All right, so per our data set, special education teachers are the hardest to fill K-12 roles. Approximately 7.5 million K-12 students receive special education, which accounts for about 15% of all public school students. And that data is according to the National Center for Education Statistics. After the pandemic, districts across the country saw an increase in the number of students served by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And yet, this remains one of the hardest roles to fill. Due to rising workloads, districts should expect even more churn as our special education teachers leave as a result of burnout and feeling overworked with an increase in students needing that further support. But of course, these challenges aren't isolated to the K-12 education either. All right, so although positions in higher education typically command a stronger pay, employees are still facing burnout, administrative burdens, threats to tenure, and other challenges that make those higher ed jobs hard to fill as well. Our data shows that several higher ed positions receive less than 10 applicants per job. A closer examination reveals a trend. Many of those roles require specialization and experience. Many of these professions are also in high demand in the private sector as well, right? Which adds a competitive element to the recruitment. Given these higher ed challenges, many post-secondary teachers are actually choosing to work in the private sector versus education. All right, some other roles specific to the education sector are struggling to get enough applicants as well. One of them being career and technical education teachers, right? So despite the demand for career and technical education teachers in post-secondary education, the number of people viewing and applying for these jobs is startlingly low. Many industries are already feeling the effects of a skilled trade worker shortage, but studies are projecting a skilled labor crisis by 2030 due to the lack of skilled labor. Another role that we're seeing are a struggle to fill are management occupations. These non-teaching positions are also hard to fill in the education sector. Overall, there were fewer job openings, more applicants, and more people viewing those management roles. However, the view to apply conversion rate is still low at only 1.1%. So similar to roles in higher education, institutions are competing with the private sector for those mid to senior level career candidates. So these insights present a clear opportunity for institutions to expand job sourcing and improve the job appeal of these leadership roles. Next, let's explore some of the most attractive jobs in education and what we can learn from them. All right, so while many roles, of course, are hard to fill these days, there are a few that job seekers are quite excited about. Jobs with higher than average applicants per job and strong view to apply conversion rates indicate that those roles are popular among the job seekers. All right, so since 2020, there's been a 95% increase in the number of open substitute teaching roles, which is likely a reflection of extremely high turnover rates among our full-time teachers. Substitute teaching positions are routinely at the top percentile of our job seeker data. On average, they receive about 50 applications per job. Substitute teaching roles are often short-term and part-time, requiring less commitment and responsibility than a full teaching role. As most teachers experience burnout and leave the industry, many are seeking the flexibility that substitute teaching provides, which is leading then to the higher view to apply rates and makes these jobs much easier to fill. Though substitute teaching, of course, is unique to K-12 education, flexibility is a theme that keeps coming up in our data that can be applied across the entire education sector. Job seekers of all kinds, really, are looking for opportunities to use their skills, but still remain flexible in where and how often they report to work. All right. Additionally, our data indicates that non-teaching administrative roles are also in demand among job seekers. Despite a decrease in job openings on this side, each job received more views and applicants than last year. As teachers continue to leave the classroom, it's possible some may be escaping burnout by working in the school office. According to one study by the NCES, which is the National Center for Education Statistics, 39% of former public school teachers continue to work for school in a non-teaching position. That's a huge number, right? The rest are leaving the profession for a better work-life balance. So understanding the job seeker preferences gives you a roadmap to improve those job positionings and attract those qualified candidates. All right, so next we are going to speak about hiring solutions. So attracting and converting top talent into applicants starts with understanding what those job seekers want. We're excited to share several strategies that address some of your immediate hiring challenges, as well as help you build a strong foundation for future recruitment. So with that, I am going to hand it on over to Makeda.
Thanks, Amanda, and for sharing those insights, Stephanie, as well. So now we're going to talk a bit more about expanding that candidate sourcing. If what you're doing isn't working, you need to try something new, right? You need to expand your horizons and tap into other talent pools. Let's talk a little bit more about how you do that. How do you really expand your job sourcing and get enough qualified candidates to fill these perpetually open positions? Sourcing active candidates or job seekers who are actively looking for a job is the most common way to fill a talent pool, of course. But we also have passive candidates, those not actively looking for a job. Say that a job would catch their attention if it came as a recommendation from a friend, outreach from a recruiter, or a personal connection from their network. So it's a productive use of time. Plus, even if a passive candidate isn't ready to leave their current employer now, they may be ready in a few months. So you want to water that by having those active outreach points. You can also leverage your database of past applicants to find qualified candidates for current openings. An applicant may not have been a good fit for a past job, or they may have been your silver medalist, but maybe they're qualified for a current or future opening. With software solutions like Attract, NeoEd's candidate relationship manager, you never have to start sourcing from scratch. It provides a database of past applicants with automated tools for connecting with them. Also, consider sourcing trainable candidates to explore your talent pool and expand it. This is a smart technique to gain more applicants at a time when the working population is declining and the competition for talent is increasing. A skills-based approach to sourcing shifts the focus to the candidate's skills and experience instead of precise credentials. You really may be surprised at how many people are qualified but just lack the exact job requirements or don't know how to necessarily translate that onto their resumes. So according to the data we captured from a survey of public sector candidates earlier this year, 52% of job seekers report beginning applications but not finishing them. That's huge. And 34% of those who don't finish them do so because they feel unqualified while completing the application itself. Let's really take a look at that data because this trend is really true across the entire workforce. If people feel unqualified during the application process, they're less likely to complete your application. Institutions like yours really could benefit from skill-based hiring. You can easily widen your talent pool by targeting interns, retirees, past candidates, and even part-time workers. Again, feeding into that flexibility trend that we talked about earlier. There's less competition for some of these groups, making it easier to stand out to qualified candidates too. By expanding job sourcing to include a wider range of skill sets and experiences, institutions really can create a more robust and adaptable hiring process. So, what else can we do to increase our qualified candidate pool? Increasing job appeal is a great way to attract more qualified candidates, as Amanda mentioned earlier. Let's talk about the most appealing aspects of a job according to the hundreds of job seekers we surveyed.
Job appeal is largely dependent on the specific role and job seeker preferences, which really makes it hard to standardize job appeal across all jobs. For instance, reducing minimum qualifications may work to attract candidates for some roles, but not all. Likewise, some job seekers are attracted to jobs with remote work options, while others are attracted to financial benefits. So although it's difficult to standardize work options and job appeal for everyone, our surveyed job seekers rank benefits 57%, salary 50%, followed closely by job security, meaningful work, and career growth opportunities as the most appealing aspects of work. So job descriptions are a great way to showcase school culture, values, and missions, letting potential candidates know how they can contribute and thrive. Highlight growth and advancement opportunities. Help candidates imagine their future with your institution. Also, spotlighting your institution's unique and valuable benefits separate from the main job description can help you to differentiate your school for those hard to fill positions. When developing job descriptions, especially for your hardest to fill roles, consider leveraging your employer value proposition to position your institution as a place job seekers want to work. Your institution can't be the best at everything, but you may be the best at one or two things. Identify what your differentiators are and use them to set yourself apart from other organizations. Centering a job descriptions on the benefits of employment, such as growth opportunities, meaningful work, or administrative support, can positively influence your candidate pool. Also, when you're thinking about those differentiators, think about your campus, your location, those things that other institutions can't replicate, and leverage those as well. And while not specific to hiring, earlier this year, we surveyed institutions about their priorities for 2024, and employee health and well-being was a major one of them. As you all have challenges filling roles, you know the adverse effect is understaffed teams and employees feeling burned out and overworked. So this focus is critically important. This kind of focus helps from both a hiring and a retention perspective. So with top talent in high demand and in very short supply, you want to make sure that when top talent does enter your hiring pipeline, you capitalize on it. This starts with creating a positive candidate experience. The candidate experience is a critical aspect of attracting qualified applicants and filling open positions. Yet, current hiring processes can deter candidates from applying in the first place. Like I mentioned earlier, half of all job seekers reported starting a public sector job application and not finishing it. Majority of candidates say they didn't finish applying because the process was frustrating and made them feel unqualified. So you have candidates self-selecting themselves out when they may be a great fit for your institution. Here are some direct quotes from those same job seekers when asked to describe the best and worst parts of the application and hiring process. And while these quotes are from public sector candidates, which half the higher education institutions are, as well as the schools, many job seekers in private education or even the private sector face similar frustrations when applying to new positions. These fields really interconnect. Another mutually beneficial focus supporting both candidates and your institution is, of course, reducing time to hire. Education, we know this, education is known for having a longer time to hire, and 31% of survey respondents earlier this year agreed that slow hiring is a top recruiting challenge, and it's also costing you money. Time to hire is an important metric for auditing and improving your school's recruitment process. Additionally, according to a SHRM benchmark report, the private sector fills vacancies within 36 days, a little over a month. But if your institution is like many others, this number is probably quite a bit smaller than yours. But we're curious to see what your time to hire is looking like, so we're going to ask that. So really, what is your average time to hire in days right now? Is it 0 to 30 days, similar to the private sector, or are we going out much further? I'll have Stephanie go over these poll results, as I'm not able to see them.
Absolutely, they're still coming in.
Awesome.
Let's get their numbers in. Perfect.
Nice. Okay, I'm able to see those results. So as a huge majority is seeing that time to hire taking between 30 to 60 days. However, we still have 25% of folks who are going over 60 days and another 10 who's going 90% of the time. So that's because recruitment and higher education often includes those lengthy background and referral checks and complex search committee processes. This really highlights a key operational issue, one that often results in the churn of qualified candidates who are receiving job offers from other agencies faster. So without efficient recruiting operations, education can't compete with the private sector for top talent. So with that in mind, here are some ways to shorten your time to hire while also improving the candidate experience. So these are all going to improve your operational efficiency with technology especially. You can simplify all of the things mentioned in this list. Most of younger candidates also are digital natives and not only appreciate good technology, they expect it. And that is a huge part of your candidate pool. So leveraging the right technology is one of the fastest ways to accelerate the hiring process. As we all know now, job seekers' best and worst experiences revolve around the application process, the level of communication, and the hiring timeline. By improving in these areas, you give every candidate a positive experience with your institution, leading to positive feedback and a stronger reputation amongst applicants in the market. These elements are essential in building a positive employer brand and future recruitment efforts, because you also don't want to alienate the folks who have already applied to your institution and showed interest in working with you. So you want to give them a great experience so that they keep coming back, especially as they build skills over the years. So to wrap up what we discussed thus far, some best practices you can implement now and improve upon at your institutions include timely communications. So you need to respond to job seekers promptly to keep them engaged throughout the hiring process. If you're not responding to them, someone else is, and that's who can get your qualified applicant. You have to give honest feedback. that really that feedback to applicants if they're not selected, so you can go back to them easily if needed for roles in the future, because they feel respected that way and their time is respected. Job requirements. Consider reducing those minimum qualifications for roles where possible and seeking trainable candidates. Also consider looking at those synonyms and certain skills that can be transferable instead of exact phrasing or wording. And also with your job descriptions, make sure you write them for the job seekers, not the position. By implementing these best practices and improving the hiring process overall, your current staff morale and overall organizational health will likely improve and also increase retention. So I'm going to pass that back to Stephanie now.
Awesome. Thank you. Hopefully I don't cough the entire time. We're good. That was awesome. I really appreciate you both digging into that, Amanda and Makeda. You know, we have the larger report, but on the whole, you've heard from the data presented today that it's clear that while the education job market saw that uptick in 2023, educational institutions are still facing a number of hiring challenges. Fortunately, there are a number of best practices that you can start implementing to address these problem areas. And there are also software solutions that can help you to source that top talent, increase job appeal, and improve your hiring process. Job boards, which you all self-selected, were some of your best areas for attracting qualified candidates, like schooljobs.com, candidate relationship management software like Attract, applicant tracking systems like Insight, offering skills and job training like Learn, giving feedback and planning like Perform, and a whole host of other NeoEd tools which can help you to improve your employer brand, attract more qualified candidates, and accomplish more with less resources. Of course, putting an end to the vicious cycle of burnout and turnover. I'm gonna throw it over for questions. Please drop those in the chat or in the Q&A question section now. And I'll leave it to you two, Amanda and Makeda, to answer some of those questions as well.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you. All right. Does anyone have any questions for us? Anything that's come top of mind here as we discuss sort of what hiring looks like?
Awesome. Now that I'm not choking. Oh, someone asked if we'll share the deck afterwards. Yes, we will share the deck afterwards. I will also in a moment share a quick link, a QR code to the overall report, so you can dig into some more specifics in the data and review our charts as well. I saw a question come into about buy-in, right? So I'm an HR professional at an educational institution. I need to get buy-in from my leadership to actually begin to explore technology and other ways to attract these qualified candidates. Amanda or Makeda, do you have any insight on sort of the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my best advice is to go in with the data, right? They often respond to numbers when in our higher up offices, right? They want to see the numbers. If we're not able to fill these roles, right, and they're sitting vacant for a long time, come in with the data so that you can say, this is exactly where we stand. Not only that, come in with a plan. This is what we'd like to do to make these changes, and this is our goal for that plan. So I think, you know, just being fully prepared, not only with the data, but with the plan as well, will help them really see that clearly this is an issue, right, that we've been thinking about, and it's been top of mind for a long while now. This is how we're going to try to fix that problem. Makeda, anything else?
Yeah, I honestly couldn't say it better, Amanda. What I do with a lot of my clients when we're talking, with the C-suite and the president of the institution, and they're trying to get some of these solutions into place, is really knowing your ROI. How is this a return on investment for the institution? How does this save time, reduce that burnout, increase retention? And what does this do for the long-term strategic institutional goals overall? And how does this fit into it? And as we know, our institutions have to have staff, they have to have faculty, they cannot run without it. So this is a top of the mind issue, and that is the best way that I can suggest how you really get that buy-in. And also educate yourself, have those demos, sit there and really look at all of your operational efficiency, how many systems are duplicating each other, and how can you streamline that so that you get that really accurate data, to Amanda's point. Yeah.
Awesome. Another question came in. Someone asked, to speed up processes, it's tempting to screen applicants using AI. AI is certainly a hot topic these days. However, if we're supposed to be flexible with minimum qualifications, is it better to actually have a real person screen applicants? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So we hear that a lot, where of course you can, there's quite a few ways to do this, and a lot of ways is through technology. So one way is with those supplemental question banks, being able to have a mix of minimum qualifications and skills that you want, and having your system aggregate those totals of qualifications so that it's not just one-to-one, yes or no, equal or not. So having those percentages is helpful. Also having some form of video hiring, do your initial pre-screening can help. So NeoEd, for example, we have those integrations where we're able to, you can have your initial interviews be done from a question bank, and they can do the one-way video hiring, and that way you can get further along in your process and interview more folks without spending that valuable time of your HR professionals. Any other thoughts for that, Amanda?
Yeah, absolutely. You're completely right, Makeda, right? Using that screening through the system based on your own supplemental questions, I think is honestly such a good way to go. I've used it myself, right? And I'm not sure how I would have survived without it. But when it comes to AI itself, I think, can it be helpful? Absolutely, right? We all know we're short-staffed, right? As we go through these applicants, we want to find ways to do it faster and really get those better results. I would say AI would be extra helpful for those positions that are getting maybe more applicants, right? They're a bit easier to fill. When it comes to your harder to fill positions, I would say sometimes that going through and looking at each one as a human, right? As a person in HR who knows those qualifications and maybe knows any substitute type qualifications that we could put in would be super helpful. Of course, the supplemental questions through Insight, right? You're creating those, you're creating the scoring on that. That's almost like you looking through those qualifications, right? But I do think AI can be a time saver for those easier to fill positions, but I would say harder to fill wise, I personally would feel more comfortable having a person look at them, right? And seeing if there's any room for flex when it comes to those minimum qualifications.
I love that. You both sort of, it was a balanced answer there, because yes, technology can help us. Same with AI, right? It can help to speed things along. It can also help to make the application, or rather the screening process, much quicker and more doable, for lack of a better word, right? Like sometimes if there's a ton of applicants, you're like, how am I supposed to tackle this? So technology can certainly help us for that, especially when that technology is customizable to your specific roles. But on the flip side, reminding ourselves that we're all human and we're hiring other humans, especially for those really hard to fill roles, can be a way to better understand and identify those really, super qualified candidates. So I love that. Thank you both. One other thing that came up as well in the questions was around employee development, and just, we talked a lot in the data about hiring and about what the state of the job market is right now in education. But on the flip side, what is the, and can you speak, either of you speak to sort of the state of the institutions themselves? And for those teams and departments that are understaffed and overworked and feeling burnt out, are there solutions for schools to be able to support their current employees as well, especially from a retention lens that either of you are aware of?
Yeah, I talk about retention all day with higher education institutions in particular, and that is really the top. We did a 2024 top HR trends, and that was a really pressing issue for this year for most institutions. So as we see, there's a hiring crisis. So how can we hold on to the current employees that we have, retain them, and also develop them? And that's where we really look at the learning management system, like within NeoEd with 1,400 courses and certificate tracking, or a dedicated performance evaluation tool where you're giving that feedback throughout the year and also tying it with training so that you're developing within your employee base and also holding on to those employees who are staying during this burnout, staying for long times, and maybe you can't give them huge raises or switch their benefits too much, but you can definitely invest in developing them and let them know that they have a long-term with your long-term with your institution by giving them these tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Makeda said, I think so much of it comes down to communication, right? They want to feel like they're able to develop and move to their next role. Make sure there's training and learning courses available to them for that development. And then the conversation piece, right? Check in with them. We've all been there before, right? In a position where maybe we're short staffed and we're struggling, right? Because there's too much to do and not enough hours in the day to do it. Talk with them, have those check-ins regularly, show them that you understand and you're here to support. I think that the conversation piece through the performance evaluations being not just once a year, but a year round, right, is super important when it comes to that retention.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. Any last minute questions in the chat here? I know I shared with all of you that we're going to share the full report, so I want to get to that as well. I want to make sure I have leave some time to answer any other questions. I don't see any coming through, but if you do have them and need to reach out to us, please do. We're always happy to answer your questions. And like I said, you are able to download the report and dig into the data even more. Feel free to scan the little QR code here, or you can head to our website as well to get access to the report itself. And if you have interest in connecting with a member of our team and want to reach out to us at contact@neoed.com, please do. Thank you all for attending today. Thank you for your questions. And thank you, of course, Amanda and Makeda, for sharing all of your insights. Definitely keep an eye out on your inbox for a recording of this presentation, as well as the deck itself. You'll get to hear me cough again, which is always fun. We're all human, right? We're human. We're hiring other humans. I appreciate you all for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.